Yep, Charlamagne the God.
Andrew Schultz.
We are the Brilliant Idiots, and we don't have any goddamn pre-roll this week.
No.
A lot of
we fell off,
mids.
bro.
No, we didn't fall off. We got a lot of mids.
Oh, we got mids?
And we got some goddamn posts.
All right, bet.
So we all right. It's the only time I like mid. Any other time I like exotic. I don't smoke. I'm just bullshitting. But I'm on a high, though, from going to see the St. Pablo concert, tour, whatever you want to call it. You saw it this week.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it Monday.
I saw it Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Which was actually great for me because Tuesday was my 2-year wedding anniversary.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, which I totally forgot about. Okay.
That's funny. Yo, we should go see, what's it called tonight? That's what we're doing for wedding anniversary?
No, let me tell you how clueless I am. I'm at the crib, right? I'm at the crib. And I see some stuff on, like, my nightstand. Okay, what is this? You know what I mean? I see like a little bag. I'm not paying it no attention.
Yeah.
So my wife's like, yeah, that's your anniversary present you didn't open up from last year. And I'm like, but she does stuff like this all the time because, you know, I'm a hoarder. So I'm always throwing stuff. I get so much stuff, I'm throwing it around. I don't keep it. So I just thinking, okay, you know, she cleaned up. She found it. She put it like, literally, she found like a cupcake from my birthday 2 years ago in the house somewhere. Like literally.
Yeah.
So she put it up on the dresser. So I don't pay it no attention. So we're at the Kanye West concert. And all day I'm back and forth. I'm like, why has she got such a fucking attitude? I'm like, yo, you want to go to the show? She's like, I don't care if we go to the show or not. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why you don't? So finally, I just make the executive decision, like, fuck it, we're going to the show. So we go to the show. I'm at the show. I get a text from my mom. My mom's like, happy number 2, whatever. And I'm like, is this a late text? Like, my baby's a year old now. Like, what is she talking about? So I text my mom. I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna show you the text. I'm gonna show you the exact text. Hold on. I'm gonna show it to you. This shit is unreal, man. Hold on. Oh my God. Hold on. This is literally last night. Happy number 2 with much love. I go, huh? She goes, happy 2nd anniversary. I go, yikes. I forgot. I put, we at Kanye West concert now. She goes, enjoy. Can't believe you forgot. So I'm like, holy shit, how do I get out of this one?
You got to get Kanye to say happy anniversary.
Right? That's what I do. My dude Steve, $2 Steve, he's always passing out a $2 bill.
I know the white guy. Yeah.
Steve, he comes, he's talking to me and my wife, and he goes, so how long y'all been married? I go, 2 years today. I just jump into the comment. I'm like 2 years. I'm like 2 years today.
Hoist that shit from half court.
What?
Fuck it.
That's it, baby. 2 years today. What you mean how long we've been married?
Oh, you thought I forgot.
I forgot? Oh, okay. I know what I'm doing. And then, so I don't say nothing else. Later on, I go, am I supposed to tell you happy anniversary? And she was like, you forgot. I go, yeah, but listen, we've been together since 1998. This marriage shit is new to me, man. I literally, she knows I'm absent-minded. Like, I literally asked her yesterday, this is no lie, we're riding in the car, I go, yo, how old are you again? I'm like, you'll be 35 this year, right? I'm like,
bro.
It happens, man. It happens. But with all that said, even though I forgot, we still was at Kanye West concert last night.
Yeah, because subconsciously
I knew.
All right.
I would much rather be having that conversation about to watch Kanye West than have that conversation laying in the fucking bed.
Watching Shahs of Sunset.
Like, oh, shit.
You about to get your pussy ate tonight?
Oh, shit. But Kanye show was amazing, man.
Yeah, Kanye show. Kanye show was really good. You know what Kanye show is for me? Kanye show for me is vanilla ice cream.
What you mean?
I mean that vanilla ice cream is the best ice cream. Substitute chocolate, whatever one you prefer. But in that, like, you could eat that for the rest of your life. It is delicious. You could eat it after you have a nice meal. I'll have a scoop of vanilla ice cream. It is absolutely great. But there are minor things that you could do to improve upon vanilla ice cream.
I like your analogy, but I'll take it a step further and say the simplicity of what Kanye's genius is great. And I will say it's vanilla ice cream, but that ain't no milk from no cow.
No, it's
milk from a goddamn
it's milk from some other shit. It's Sasquatch titty milk?
Yeah, man, that ain't no regular milk, bro. I've never seen anything like that, personally.
Let me ask you this, though. When you're watching the show, and just so we should let everybody know, Kanye does it completely by himself.
By itself.
So there's no features, nothing.
Which to me trumps Drake's show, and I love the Drake and Future show.
Here's my thing. I feel, and I remember when I watched Jay do the whole show by himself out in Brooklyn, and in both circumstances, I felt like, wow, this is amazing. These guys are great performers. Kanye's a great performer. The stage setup was absolutely incredible. I was in the general admission, so like the crowd.
You was in the mosh pit.
I was in the mosh pit.
That's not general admission. That's a fest. That is a
real
that
talk.
Is a mosh pit.
Real talk. When it comes to the mosh pit, this was so funny. We were there, and the mosh pit started, and I literally am watching white people gentrify rap shows. I'm sitting there seeing these white boys start pushing each other around, right? And it was so funny because there's this black dude next to me, and we're in the circle, and the mosh pit is going on, and one of the white kids got too close to the black dude, and when I tell you this black dude gave this kid a fucking Hadouken to the back, literally hit him with a Hadouken. This white boy flew across the mosh pit, shut down the mosh pit. It was like the other kids were like, all right, maybe this isn't the place for this.
But you know, this is the thing, and I thought about this last night. This is new to a whole generation.
Yes.
The mosh pit. Like, to me, that's Onyx.
Yep.
Slam.
Metallica, fucking Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. People diving in the crowd. Method Man, Redman diving in the crowd. Like, that's Little John Crunk to me. That's Crime Mob Crunk. Like, that's all when I'm watching that shit, and I'm like, yo, that's early 2000. Like, I love that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yo, that's new to a whole group of kids. So, if you've never experienced that, and they start their wild,
you're like, what is happening?
You sizing people up,
dude. It was the second the guy came over, he just dude, and threw him in the back. But here's my thing about the show. I think that sometimes Vanilla Ice Cream can be improved upon by just adding sprinkles. I would have liked to see Designer do his verse. I would have liked to see Chance do his verse. Not tons of features like Drake did, but a couple select ones where all of a sudden they hop up on the platform with them.
I was thinking that might be dangerous.
I think it is dangerous.
Because if you notice, Kanye
had the cord.
A cord tied to
Explain
him.
what it looks like, the concert, though, just so people at home.
First of all, I've never seen the garden design like that.
Okay, yeah.
You had the regular seating all around, but then I guess where the basketball court would be, nothing but people.
It's in standing. It's usually they put seats there.
Yeah, standing
room only. So standing room only, and they call it general admission.
He announced last night this is the most. He said this is the most tickets ever sold in the Garden for any event.
Yeah, because there's no seats, so you don't have to take up all the room. So his stage actually floats suspended over general admission. So it goes from one
mosh pit.
Over the mosh pit.
I don't want to call it general admission because I don't want y'all to think this is just.
Yeah.
This is a mosh pit, which gave it a whole different level of energy.
Yeah.
And it's like, you ever watch War of the Worlds when like the UFOs come
and they just hover over the people?
And they're hovering over people and shining light on people?
Yeah.
That's how it was.
Yeah.
And they were literally running and following the shit.
That was the wild shit.
Whoa.
As the stage would move, the crowd would also move. And I'll be honest, being in there, it was a dope experience. And I would recommend people to do that because you really feel the energy of like the fans. Like, and it was an intense feeling. I randomly bumped into Deezus. Deezus was just there. Vashti was just there, and Shelby. In the whole mosh pit, the place I walked to, randomly, the three of them are standing there.
I wasn't fucking with that mosh pit. I'm letting y'all know right now. They was like, I had access to it. I'm like, I'm not going in that fucking mosh pit. For what?
It was cool. Look, I stayed off on the side. I stayed off on the bar. All I'm saying is I would have liked to see a couple, at least Chance, because he closes the show on Ultralight Beam, and I found it kind of anticlimactic. But if Chance came out, and who's the girl who on the song? That's not Kelly Price, is it?
Not Kelly Price. The other one that used to be fat. That is Kelly Price.
Or is it Kelly? So if Kelly sung her verse, I mean, like, that's it. That's all you know. I'll fucking cry when that woman sings in that song. It's beautiful. That's what I'm saying is Vanilla Ice Cream. You don't change the base flavor. The base flavor is simple and absolutely perfect, but there are little things you could have done to improve that shit.
I love perspective. I love how you can see something and I can see something and see two different things. Because to me, I ain't think about none of them niggas last night.
Really?
None. And I like Runaway is like one of my favorite songs of all time. I love Pusha T's verse on that song. I didn't think about Pusha coming out. When he did Father Scratch My Hands Part 2 with the Designer, the energy in there was so crazy. I didn't need Designer. Like when he let Jay's verse play for niggas in Paris and Drake's verse for Pop Style. And it's like the crowd was rapping it. Like not once did I think. And I thought about that. I was like, how would it have looked if people would have came out? Because I was thinking about that concept. I'm like, all right, is this the best concert I've ever been to, or is it the best production? Cause
Interesting.
what Beyonce does is amazing.
Interesting. Yeah.
But if Beyonce was on some shit floating back and forth across the arena doing that shit, you'd be like, yo, she's the greatest ever.
It's interesting.
So for me, I just thought it was a phenomenal show. It's probably the number 2 concert I've ever been to.
Versus what?
For me, it's the Hard Knock Life tour with Jay-Z, DMX, Method Man, and Redman, which is probably the most basic concert ever. But it's like, it was just a time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it happened in my hometown. No, it happened in North Charleston.
Yeah.
So I was in North Charleston at the North Charleston Coliseum, and you know, this is when Jay-Z had just got super red hot, you know, with the Hard Knock Life album, like 3-4 times platinum, and DMX was X.
Right.
Like he was
Yes.
God at
Superhero.
that point.
Yeah.
Method Man, Redman, they was floating through the air and shit. You know what I mean? But it's just like it was just different.
Yeah.
But I'm just as far as production, probably like just like mind blown. Kanye West show by far.
Yeah. Kanye West is
Of any genre. Like
Yeah.
that's the best time I've had in a arena.
You know, did you have this feeling afterwards that you wanted to keep listening to some Kanye songs?
I woke up this morning, listened to Life of Pablo. I'm gonna tell you the feeling I really had.
Isn't that interesting that like the effect that it can stay with you? You're like, I want, like, it's almost like an addiction type of feeling. Like, you know, when you're out drinking and you get a little drunk and you're like, and you start to sober up a little bit, you're like, nah, I want another beer. I want to keep this feeling going. Like,
You know the other energy I had? Kanye West show made me want to create and bring people together. Like that's the energy I had when I left. I'm like, yo, this dude has created something that is so universal. I mean, music is universal regardless.
it's incredible. Yeah.
But his crowd is so diverse. It's white people. It's black people. They're all in Pablo gear. They're all in Yeezys.
Yeah.
Like everybody's got a certain amount of Ye in them. I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. Like Jay was probably the last person I saw that with. Then Pac before that. But Ye, even Jay and Pac didn't have the diverse audience. At least I didn't see it. I didn't grow up to notice
You're
it.
not as diverse as Ye.
Not as Ye.
Yeah.
So it made me want to create things that bring people together. Something that we all can celebrate. Something that we all can feel a part of. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't feel division last night. Like even watching that mosh pit, you got white dudes, black dudes, Indians, Asians just pushing each other while and everybody singing songs word for word. That's the energy I took from it.
Yeah, I would agree with you, especially being down there. When you're down there, there is no hierarchy. Which is kind of dope. Like, you know, you're at the nightclub and you see some people with bottle service. Even if you got bottle service, they got a better seat. Yeah. And then somebody's got the VIP. There's this constant fuck you, right? Yeah. But to be honest, in that environment right there, you're free to go wherever you want. You can go closer to stage, you can go further stage. There is really no hierarchy. And it's a nice way to experience music that way.
And it's a simplicity in the way Ye even dresses. When he's up there, he looks... I mean, he all this shit look homeless.
Yeah, he looks homeless.
That's the thing, you know what I mean? No jewelry, no nothing. But I'm still above everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Like it's weird. Like I just thought it was an amazing show. I have to go see it again.
Yeah,
I gotta go see it again to make sure it didn't straight out of Compton me. And what I mean by that is I don't go to concerts and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? That's the first Kanye West concert I've ever been to in my life. I didn't do Glow in the Dark and Watch the Throne and all that stuff like that. So I want to make sure it wasn't just a hype thing. You know what I mean? Like, because I went in there with no expectations. Nobody gassed it up for me. I texted you. I'm like, yo, what'd you think about it?
Yeah.
You kind of just was like,
No, I liked it. I liked it.
It was
yeah.
dope. It was anticlimactic at the end. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I didn't hear nobody like, oh shit. About it.
Yeah.
But when you go see it, it's really a oh shit moment.
Oh, it's impressive.
It's impressive.
And I would recommend seeing it like, how would I say this? I wish that concerts you could pay extra for your section to be 18 and up. There was one thing that I didn't like, which was there were like all these like 14-year-olds around me, and it just kind of affected my experience a little bit. Like, I wanted to get lost in it, but all of a sudden we're talking about bleached assholes, and I got 14-year-old girls talking about bleached assholes.
I loved it.
You love 14-year-old girls talking about bleached assholes?
Listen,
I just wanted to have my experience with it, like, be without any kind of self-consciousness. And I think it's hard when there's kids around to to not be aware of your actions, because I think as adults we should always be responsible with our actions around kids. And the nice thing about being 18 and up is I can act like a maniac because, hey, everybody here is an adult.
The craziest thing in the world is Kanye West is probably the tamest thing they're listening to. If you're 14, you like Young Thug, you like 21 Savage, you like Travis Scott.
Right.
If you want to talk about a bleached asshole, fine, yeah. I'd rather talk about bleached assholes than popping a bunch of fucking pills 100 miles per hour.
You know what? You might be right.
Hey man, I like that young energy. I like watching young people be young. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't have a desire to be young again because that's just foolish thinking.
Yeah,
like, you can't. It's impossible.
Not gonna happen.
Go backwards. But I like watching young people be young. You know, I like when young people can enjoy something, older people can enjoy something, different races can enjoy something, different genders, different sexuality. That's all you saw. Everybody was just one nation under the groove of Kanye West last night. That's what I thought was so dope about it.
You understand. When you go to the concert, you understand why Kanye feels the way he does about Kanye.
How can you not?
Right? Like
if you want a fucking flying stage,
motherfuckers,
and you kneel down on the stage, and people are just looking up at you with their mouths open. You can piss in their mouth, and they'll rub it all over your face. Like, how can you not love Kanye?
Son, I saw a funny thing.
Kanye.
There was somebody, Kanye, you know the point where the stage gets really low and Kanye's almost like just barely hovering over people, right? Someone took off a Yeezy, right? And one Yeezy sneaker and kind of threw it up a little bit, hoping Kanye would catch it, right? And they threw it up, and then all of a sudden a hand came out of like somewhere else and went to kind of grab the sneaker, right? All of a sudden, the motherfucker who threw it yanked the sneaker, and that shit did not go up in the air again. It was like he knew exactly how important that fucking Yeezy was. Man. He wasn't losing it today.
Kanye is... Hey man, I can't do nothing but salute.
Salute.
That's it. I felt inspired after I left that concert. I felt like I wanted to create. I felt like I wanted to bring people together.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
When I left Drake and Future show, I didn't feel anything other than that was a great show.
Yeah,
it was a great show. And I did, the two emotions I did take away from both was, even if I'm not a fan of Drake's music, I understand who that's for after going to his concert.
Mm-hmm.
His slow songs. And for Kanye, you can see how his sound evolved. Because Gold Digger don't ring off like Black Skinheads.
It really doesn't.
Gold Digger don't ring off like Father Stretch My Hands 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like it's like you could tell Kanye went from clubs to doing arenas to doing stadiums, and he understands what type of music can fill and rock a stadium.
Yep.
It's like, hey man, salute to Ye. Go see the fucking show. Second best concert I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it's dope.
And the only reason I don't say first is because I'm old and stuck in my ways. Now, we'd like to thank Audible for supporting this week's episode of Brilliant Idiots. Finding the time to fit a good book into a busy schedule is a frustrating, fruitless experience, but Audible aims to make it easy for you to enjoy books by listening to them on your time, whether you're at the gym, in the middle of your commute, or on your lunch break. You can listen to Audible.com anytime and anywhere. Audible.com provides over 250,000 titles from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, entertainers, magazines, and newspaper publishers, and business information providers.
The app is free. It works on all Apple devices, even Android and Windows phones. And unlike a streaming or rental service, with Audible, you own your books, so you can access your books anytime and anywhere right from your smartphone. Audible.com also has the Great Listen Guarantee. If you decide you don't like the book you choose, don't worry about it. You can exchange any book you aren't happy with for another title anytime, no questions asked. You can check out our guests. That's right. You know, it's very important that we're mentioning this Audible because we have a great guest today.
Oh,
you know,
my God.
Who has some amazing books that are on Audible.
Name some of the books.
The Tipping Point.
Okay.
Outliers.
Okay.
David and Goliath.
Are you saying Malcolm Gladwell is going to be on this podcast?
Malcolm Gladwell's in the motherfucking building.
Okay.
Okay, so just for listeners of the Brilliant Idiots podcast, Audible.com is offering a free 30-day trial membership. Go to audible.com/idiots today and start your free trial right now. Again, show your support for Brilliant Idiots and get a free trial right now at audible.com/idiots. And now, without further ado,
before we bring Malcolm in,
okay,
I just want to tell one story. From last night. I'm walking backstage at the Kanye West show, right?
Okay.
It's me, it's my wife, it's Paige, it's Wax, and I see a group of white girls walking towards me, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the white girls is Ariana Grande, and Ariana Grande goes, oh my God, it's my worst nightmare. Like she literally turned back in the cat from motherfucking Victorious. Like she looked terrified.
Okay.
I don't want to have that kind of impact on white women, okay? I don't. The scariest thing for a black man to hear in America right now is, oh my God, that's my worst nightmare from a white woman. Okay? Ariana Grande, go lick all the goddamn donuts you want. I don't give a shit. Okay?
How is she looking?
She like a disciple of Yeezus. She had on a camouflage jacket, a Pablo coat or something, with some Yeezys on, some glasses. Like she looked like a freaking disciple of Yeezus. But God bless Ariana Grande. I don't want no problems.
Let me ask you this question. Should we talk about some of the things this week? Because some things have happened this week.
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's
do it
before we bring in our guest.
All right, fine. All right. One thing I'd like to talk about is this twat Mia Khalifa. Are you familiar with her?
I keep seeing her name, but I didn't freaking.
Oh my God. Okay, so she's this porn star chick.
Okay.
Basically, what has happened is the quarterback, I think, from Ole Miss. Ole Miss was playing Florida State, and quarterback's last name is Kelly. And I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but basically, threw the Hail Mary, hit her up, and slid into the DMs, right? And she responded to him, and then he said another thing. I don't know if it's about meeting up or something like that. And then she basically clowned him. She's like, shitty game today. Stay in your, why don't you stay in your playbook and stay out of my DMs? Screenshotted it and then posted it.
So fucking lame.
Let me tell you something.
I hope he goes pro and gets $100 million. Just so she feels bad.
Yeah, and you know what else she fucking said? First of all, she said that he was out of her league. First of all, you're a point. If you have $1,000 and a DSLR camera, anybody's in your fucking league. Stop it, okay? About? Second of all, here's the thing that really bothers me about this: the DM is a private correspondence. I personally don't think there's any difference between publishing a DM without consent of words and publishing a DM without consent of body parts. I think if you show somebody's titties that they DM you, that is without their consent, right? And if you show somebody's words without them giving you permission, that is without their consent. Equally should be punishable. I think equally should get you kicked off whatever Twitter apps and that kind of stuff like that, because you're assuming somebody is more embarrassed about their body part than they are about their words, when there's a lot of big dick motherfuckers out there that feel way more uncomfortable with their simple ass bullshit pussy texts that they write. Shit, there's a lot of texts that I've probably sent out to girls that I'd really not like to be on the internet. I'd much rather my dick be on the internet.
But does it make it that girl's property once you send it to her, though?
I don't think it does, because you're sending it to them under the guise of privacy, right? I'm going into a direct message situation. I don't want anybody else to see this. That's why I'm corresponding with you, right? To be honest with you, I think it takes some real fucking.
That is a showtism.
Yeah, to be honest with me. Yeah. If I'm being honest with myself, I think, son, for real. If I'm being honest with me, I think it takes some real man hate to, like, she gotta fucking loathe men. I don't know what's going on in this girl's life, but she gotta hate men to take an innocent slide into your DM, right? Like, and it's not like this guy has a girlfriend or something like that. He's being like an asshole, or he's cheating on his wife and he got a family he's trying to ruin.
She's miserable.
She got to be so miserable to get joy out of humiliating somebody.
I think it's so funny. I agree with you, and I also think that sometimes motherfuckers just want people to know
that I know
this person. It's some sick logic, right? You see them all over ESPN. They're talking about him like, oh, this motherfucker was just in my DMs. Let me show how important I am. Was in my DMs.
I am. It's attention.
It's silly.
You know what that shit is? They're addicted to attention.
Yeah.
Okay? They are addicted to attention, and just like we always say on the show, don't criticize without offering a solution, right? Yeah. Here's my solution. You're an addict for attention, right? We got to remove the thing you're addicted to. Adios to Twitter, adios to social media, adios to any app that you use to screenshot and post things. Sorry, you're addicted. We're going to stop you from getting your fix, okay? You're banned from that shit. And I think we need to set a precedent with that right now before chicks keep doing this. They tried to do it with LeBron. They do it with all these fucking celebs. And we're letting really miserable, low-life women do this shit for attention, when if men did this shit to humiliate women, do you know what we would go through?
Hey, man,
imagine basketball stars who had all the women DMing them, posted it just to humiliate their asses.
Listen, a wise man by the name of Yo Gotti said, "Don't you hate when I get screenshotted? Pet it. That text message wasn't for everybody." You know what I mean? Hey, man, I agree with you. All right, let's pay some more bills.
All right. Okay, this week's episode of Brilliant Idiots is sponsored by Avion Tequila. Inefficiency is usually thought to be a negative, but not when you're elevating your craft to an art. Avion Tequila, voted the world's best tasting tequila, is surely one of the most inefficient tequilas you can find. You have first seen Avion on Entourage, but here's the real story behind the brand. Avion wasn't created by celebrities or billionaires. It's a collaboration between a tequila-loving entrepreneur and a family who for generations have been growing agave in their small town, Jesus Maria, in the highlands of Jalisco,
Why you just ain't call him Jesus?
Mexico. Okay? Avion is made by real people with true passion for their craft.
All jokes aside, why do we call Jesus Jesus when his name is clearly Jesus?
Well, his name is clearly some shit in Arabic.
Is it?
I mean, that's what they were speaking, or Aramaic, whatever. Well, that's what they were speaking back there. We just put the Jesus,
So hold on, is it Mexican
filter on
Jesus and an Aramaic Jesus?
Well, there's one Jesus, right?
Okay.
And then by the time he got to Spain and then later Mexico, it was Jesus.
I heard the Mexican Jesus works way harder than the Aramaic.
Oh, that motherfucker was a carpenter.
I heard he built his own cross.
Son, you thought,
He built his own cross. He crucified himself. He put himself up there. He hammered his own nails in his hands.
I got it. Don't worry. I got it, guys. No problem right here.
Listen, God, please forgive me. All right, continue.
Anyway, Avion is made by real people with true passion for their craft. They pride themselves on the art of creating beautifully inefficient tequila. Sip on Avion, neat or on the rocks. It makes a delicious top-shelf margarita, too. Share Avion with those that appreciate what they eat and drink. I promise it will become theirs and your favorite ultra-premium tequila. Please drink Avion con responsabilidad. That means responsibly.
We have a very special guest in the building, man. Somebody whose literature I'm a fan of. I've read The Outliers. I've read David and Goliath. I listened to his podcast, Revisionist History. Mr. Malcolm Gladwell is here on the Brilliant Idiot podcast.
Happy to be here.
Shot in the dark. My guy Tommy, who works at the Bill Simmons Show, he was, I guess you was on an episode of Bill Simmons Show.
Yeah, I know Tommy. I've known Tommy forever. Tommy is he's the nephew of one of my best friends.
Yeah, and we got to talking about your books. And I was like, yo, I love Malcolm Gladwell. And I forgot who he said you was on there with. I think it was Mark Cuban, maybe?
That's right.
It was, okay, all right, boom. So it was Mark Cuban. And so I go, man, I'd love to talk to Malcolm Gladwell. He goes, I'll CC him on the email. He did that with two people, by the way. Two people.
Who else?
It was Malcolm Gladwell and Mark Cuban. So he goes, just email him. And I go, I just can email Malcolm Gladwell. He goes, yeah, here's the email. He goes, and just email Mark Cuban. So I could just email Mark Cuban. Malcolm Gladwell responded, which made me even love his work even more because it seems like you're practicing what you're preaching. Mark Cuban, absolutely not.
Now he's too busy for you?
Nope.
He's got too much money.
Yeah.
He's on the plane back to Dallas. He's like, no time for that.
One thing that we talk about from your book all the time, I think the most popular thing is the 10,000 hour theory from The Outliers, but that's not what really grabbed me. What grabbed me was the equation of talent, hard work, and opportunity allows you to create your own privilege, so to speak. That's what caught me.
Yeah.
So you think privilege is something that can be created?
In part, I mean, this country has done a very good job of creating privilege in a way that's neither fair nor. But no, there's a certain amount of, and luck is also a part of that. I don't think we can overlook that fact. But I do think that people who are blessed with a certain amount of talent and are willing to put in the time necessary to kind of exploit that talent, those people will open up a whole range of opportunities for themselves. And there's not nothing, but there's very little the world can do to get in the way. That may be a slightly naively optimistic view of things, but
you have to be, though.
You have to be that way.
So it benefits you to be naive.
It does. I'm super naive. I mean, I I pride myself on the fact that I don't think there's a single cynical note in any of my books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in cynicism, even when it's warranted. I don't understand what cynicism gets you.
There's a friend of mine. He works for a professional basketball team. The Raptors, actually. You're Canadian, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And he's
that's why you're so nice. I didn't realize
we are the nicest people.
I want to get into Canada, by the way, and get your perspective on America. But we were talking about this, about the idea of like he's Asian, right? And I was like, do you ever think? Does it even go through your head that maybe people could judge you by that, and maybe hold you back from being successful in this field where there's so few Asians, etc.? And he goes, I can't allow myself to think that. And I go, why? Because then I'll have an excuse and I won't work harder. So I have to actually tell myself that that's not the case if I don't get a job, just so I keep pushing.
Yeah.
So is that forced naivete? Is that how that word's even pronounced?
Yeah. No, I think it's funny. I was coming back from LA yesterday. I was watching a documentary on Allen Iverson, and I didn't really know the story about that crazy case he's involved in when he's in high school.
Virginia. Yeah.
And he was railroaded. I mean, it's the biggest travesty. 15 years for a fight he probably didn't take part in which they were saying people were maimed. Someone had a gash over their eye. Someone got their glasses broke. Somebody was knocked unconscious briefly. This is the most preposterous. But what was really interesting thing was watching his attitude. He finally gets pardoned by Doug Wilder, the governor. But I'm sure that it affected him absolutely deep down. And there must have been a level of bitterness that he carried around in his heart for a long time. But he was not defeated by it.
You got to keep going.
You got to keep going, right?
There's an interesting part of the documentary where he talks about, like, I think they even ask him, like, do you hate white people or something like that? And he's like, there was this white tutor lady that he had. And he even talks about, he's like, how could I do that? Like, that lady did so much for me. Like,
and we meet his best friend in the beginning, who's a white guy. I mean, of all the people he was caricatured as this kind of racist thug. And then you meet him and you're like, well, actually,
he's a nice guy.
He's a complicated guy. But I mean, I was struck by the fact that so many other people would have said, that's it.
I'm done.
I cannot. Fuck the system.
America's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, America's not fair, but you have to sort of deal with it if you want to do something.
Yeah, that's my thing. Like, my thing is, yes, we know America's not fair. We know that it's certain things set up, institutionalized racism that keep people oppressed, keep people marginalized. But so the fuck what? I gotta keep going. I don't have no other choice. I have to.
Yeah.
I mean,
why do you have a VIP bracelet on? Like you was in the club last night.
No. I wish. I was doing this thing this morning with Questlove at this, and they gave it. I don't know why they gave this to it. They put it on me at the. If you go into one of these, it was at the Time Life building in the World Financial Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You would think you were entering a supermax security prison. There is more security to go into this. What is there to steal? Who's sneaking in? Who would willingly go into one of those office buildings? But so they had, they X-rayed my bag and they put this thing on my wrist. So it's the level of hilarious paranoia that goes on in office buildings in Manhattan. Like someone wants to come in and I
wonder if it was before that. Was it like that before 9/11?
I think it's always like that with celebs. You think it's post 9/11? All right, maybe it is. I just think there's like a celeb aspect to it where they feel like they have to be, extra careful or something like that. But maybe it is post 9. Everything is, I guess, changed post 9/11.
One reason I love your book, David and Goliath, too, is because when you talk about misfits a lot in that book and the underdogs, and that's what I feel when it comes to oppressed people in America, marginalized people in America, and it's almost like it's power in that, though. Yeah. It's power in that being a misfit. It's power in being an outcast. Could you explain a little bit of that?
Yeah, there was a chapter in the book on dyslexia, which sort of sums up a lot of the kind of argument of the book, which was this observation. And if you look at dyslexic people, they fall into two groups. The largest group are people who are defeated by profound disability. They can't read, they can't function. So if you look at any group of kind of dropouts in society, you will see lots of dyslexics. But at the same time, if you look at any group of very successful entrepreneurs, you will find so many dyslexics, it's unreal. And there are people who took that at a very early age and figured out a way around it and said, what can I do to kind of make it in the world, even though I can't do fundamental things like read? And so they learned to problem solve, to build teams, to delegate really well, to come up with really creative strategies. Like, there was one funny thing. I must have interviewed 25 super successful entrepreneurs who were dyslexic. Every single one of them cheated their way through school. But it wasn't the kind of cheating like, I'm not interested in school, I'm doing a shortcut. Yeah. It was the kind of cheating like,
I need to do this.
I need to get through this, and I have no way to do it on my own. All that's left to me is cheating. And so they cheated in the most brilliant, creative way. And it got to the point where I would interview them and I would say, I just knew the story. So I would say, okay, tell me how you cheated. And then they'd just start laughing. And they would just tell me these hilarious stories of, how, because they so had to get through school, they couldn't get caught. So their cheating had to be super high level. Like, it could not be right answers on my hand level stuff.
What's some examples? You can't punish a dyslexic person for cheating.
I mean,
you should salute them.
Is that the best excuse to say you didn't cheat? Like, because if you're dyslexic, how are you really going to look at somebody else's paper?
But remember, a lot of people...
You know what I mean? Right? Because you're just like, nah, that says C, B, alphabet. SpaghettiOs over here. I don't know what's going on.
You have total plausible deniability.
Perfect.
No, but remember, a lot of these people, particularly a generation ago, their disability was not recognized. They were just thought to be stupid.
Right.
Right. So that was the issue. They didn't even know themselves half the time they were dyslexic. They were just told they were slow and were never going to make it. And a couple of them refused to accept that fact. And, if you listen, you drive around Silicon Valley, you'd be stunned at how many of those people are dyslexic. It was one of the most extraordinary sort of observations I made when I was.
Could you say the same for sociopaths?
Yeah. I haven't looked at that, but I'm sure if you examined sociopaths, you would find that anytime you give somebody some kind of thing they got to do a workaround on, you force them to focus and to come up with creative strategies that sometimes that can be put to not so nice ends, and that's probably that may be what a sociopath is.
So the sociopathic tendencies are created.
Maybe you look at some. So I think it's fair to call Donald Trump a sociopath at some level. Yeah.
You think he lacks empathy?
I think he totally lacks empathy.
That's obvious.
I think
you think that guy lacks empathy?
Jesus Christ!
So
what research do you have to back this up, Gladwell?
Where did you pull that at? So here's the thing. This is an incredibly minor thing, but it's the thing I come back to again and again with him, which is, and this is totally consistent through his entire life, that he's the guy who didn't pay the bill of the contractor on whatever project. He stiffs everybody. Yeah. So the little guy comes in, does the plumbing, and he doesn't pay them for a year and a half. The guy, and then finally he may pay him 10 cents on the dollar, right? Now the question is, what kind of person does this year in, year out? It's to little people. He's way up there, Mr. Multi-billion dollar. The people that he's stiffing are not peers. The guy he's stiffing is literally the plumbing contractor who came in and did 2 days of work on his... Now, if you have to be a special kind of sociopath to not be affected by that. Like, I can understand if he screwed over another billionaire in a complicated real estate deal. Yeah. That's fine. Those guys are coming in with their eyes open. But if you screw over the guy from Queens who's got 3 kids at home and who, because you didn't pay him, he couldn't pay his bills that month, then you are an asshole on a level that I can't even wrap my mind around.
That's what's so fascinating about Trump to me, though, is because those people that he would never give a shit about, those poor white people, they're the ones that's rallying behind him the most.
Crazy.
Yeah, what do you see that as?
I don't understand that. Does it make any sense to me? Because he spent his entire life screwing over that person.
Exactly. He's been screwing you his whole life. Now you love him.
But 2 things. One, I think those people are detached from that. I don't think that they have that information privy to them.
They had to.
And even,
they had to see the big fish, little fishman eat.
I don't think you do. It's like with religion. Like, you don't do the research to disprove it, right? When you want to believe something, you just look up the stuff that supports it, right? So they're just looking up, is he a billionaire? Oh yeah, he's a billionaire. Are his businesses successful? Yeah, they're successful. Like, what does he do that's good and is consistent with what he's saying? What do I want to believe?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a better question. Why is it that? Okay, have you seen? Okay, go.
Something just came to mind.
Yeah.
This is sort of far-fetched, but I was reading this book by a guy named Derek Bell, Derek Bell was one of the great African-American legal theorists of the 20th century. He writes a book, and there's like 2 paragraphs. He's talking about the puzzle of slavery, and he says, here's the puzzle of slavery, that if you're a poor white farmer in the South in like 1800, and you're trying to compete against a wealthy white plantation owner who's using free slave labor, you can't compete, right? You have to pay for someone to work your fields. Right. The wealthy guy down the road is getting free slaves. So you should be anti-slavery, right? Slavery is making your life really, really hard if you're a poor white person.
They're stealing the jobs, if you will.
So are poor white people in the South anti-slavery? No, they're not. They're pro-slavery. They went and they fought the war. It's exactly the same phenomenon that we're talking about now. It makes no sense. They went against their own best interests. And why did they do that? They did that because the white wealthy plantation owner said to the poor white guy, you're one step ahead of the slave, right? I will grant you the status of being a quote-unquote free person. You can vote. You can do whatever you wish. I will always make sure you're one step above the black person on the ladder. And that was enough for people to vote against their economic best interest, to essentially live an impoverished life, right? Just because they were told they were better than black people.
So that's what Trump's doing now. You're better than Muslims. You're better than Mexicans.
Exactly. Exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
What are you, by the way? What's your race? I can't tell.
My mom is Jamaican. Wow. So I'm one of those hoity-toity West Indians.
But you're always on time.
You did email me you were going to be a little late. I was here.
He was at Juve this weekend, okay? It was very...
No, wait a second. The reason West Indians, now we are historically quite late. I know this as a child going to Jamaica on a regular basis.
This is research, by the way. You're about to get the realness from...
This ain't a stereotype. This is research.
It's a starting time is a suggestion. It's understood as a suggestion. If you say lunch...
Do not tell your boss this tomorrow and walk in late for work, people.
Spoken like a man who works for himself.
To Jamaican lunch is at 12. We're getting the sense that lunch is sometime around the middle of the day. That's a cultural understanding. I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, it's like, who needs to be in a hurry to lunch?
You're listening to a man who has created his own privilege, okay? For you people who have a job, if they tell you to be to work 8 a.m., that's not a suggestion. That is a mandate, okay?
No, my mom's Jamaican and my dad is English.
And you're raised in?
Canada.
What part of Canada?
Outside Toronto.
What's it?
A place called Kitchener-Waterloo.
Oh, I got family in Kitchener.
Are you serious?
Absolutely.
Are you Canadian?
No, my family's Scottish. So a lot of Scottish people moved to the Kitchener-Waterloo area.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been there. Okay, good. So you're from Kitchener-Waterloo.
You got a lot of pussy in Canada, too, bro.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
I got a couple.
Yeah. When did you start writing?
I started writing. I graduated from college and couldn't get a job. And then I got a random job at some magazine in Indiana where it was for 5 months before I got fired. Why did I get fired? Because I couldn't show up on time in the morning.
There we go. Suggestion. There we go.
He comes in thunder.
Y'all ready to start that
day? And then I just started writing stuff. And then I moved to Washington, D.C., where I was an illegal immigrant. And I started freelancing for magazines, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. Okay, what is your education? What is your background?
I went to University of Toronto.
Okay.
Good state school, Canadian state school. Received a fine education. And here's the kicker. Here was my tuition. Ready? $800 a year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Canada.
Damn, Canada.
Take that.
What was $800 for? Lunch?
And when they raised tuition in my senior year to $805 a year, we protested.
Wow.
I mean,
spoiled ass.
I just want to point out that when you get an $800 a year tuition education, you do get fired within the first 5 months of your job.
That's right.
So I don't know if it's that fair.
Don't implicate my education in that.
When you got $100,000 to pay off, you show up on time.
You know this from my podcast. My anger at American education is so overwhelming. It is. In a million years, you would not design this system if you were starting from scratch. Like that ought to be the test, right? If you're starting over, would it look anything like it looks now? And the answer is no, it wouldn't. There's like so many things in this country.
Give us some example, like of what you're talking about. Because a lot of people here are used to this system, right? They don't even know anything else. A lot of people that were listening to the podcast, right? They're not familiar.
Don't you think a capitalist society is a gift and a curse, kind of?
It is a gift, and it is absolutely a gift and a curse, particularly if people don't understand the appropriate balance between things that people ought to do on their own and things that people need help to do. If you're an 18-year-old American who is disciplined and intelligent enough to benefit from a college education, you ought to get a college education, period. And we ought to do whatever we can to make that as easy as possible for you because you're trying to better yourself. The idea that you ought to erect these kinds of barriers, economic barriers, where people are bankrupting their families, going into massive debt, or not going at all because they do the numbers and it doesn't work. That's just insane. This is the richest country in the world. Now, I'm not saying there are other things that I don't want the government doing. Stay away. This strikes me as being something that is so crucial to success in life that we should not let financial considerations should never stand in the way of someone wanting to better themselves.
Here's my question about that.
Yeah.
When you go to some of these universities and talk, right, and you're around the campuses, at a certain point in time, do we have to hold the universities accountable for their spending?
Absolutely. I mean,
it's preposterous, the shit that they got.
It's unbelievable. They're like Four Seasons resorts. It's like,
dude, I'm at University of Florida. There was a bowling alley, and I'm like, do you have to pay for this? They're like, no, it's for the students. There's a
but
why are we bowling?
But technically, aren't the students paying for that with tuition and stuff like that?
They're absolutely.
Wouldn't they prefer not to? That's my point. Like, wouldn't you rather have your
back
fun
on the amenities to be able to get
rid
free
of
education?
the bare bones. Where's the classroom? Does it have a chalkboard?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like you're paying for intellect. Really, that's what we're doing. It's like this guy's smarter than me. I'm going to sit down, soak up some of his intellect. I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't need ping pong.
Yeah. No, I did. One of my revisionist history episodes was called Bowdoin versus Vassar. It was all about how Bowdoin's got the best food, famously, of all American colleges. So we went there and we just talked about the food. And the whole point was that if you're Vassar's a college that tries to spend as much as possible on financial aid, tries to help, basically, poor, smart kids, bring as many of them in as possible. And their job is made incredibly difficult because Bowdoin is one of their competitors, and Bowdoin doesn't do that. Bowdoin takes their extra dollars. It's like lobster and steak in the dining hall every night. It's unreal. It's like, and so we just recorded these kids in the dining hall at Bowdoin talking about how amazing the food was. I was just like, is this really where we've come to? That college has become a place where you get lobster and steak and like, no, you should get greasy pizza and go back and study that's it's completely out of whack.
Isn't that one of the reasons Americans they stress education so much though? Because it's kind of like really hard to get a college certification because of the financial reasons. So when you get it, you're not guaranteed a great job, but you are guaranteed maybe a leg up in society, right?
I think I don't know. What do you?
Well,
because I don't know if all Canadians are successful. I don't know. I'm not from Canada. So I don't know.
No, my concern is to me the question is always this, which is what is the number of students in America right now who we lose? That is to say, who would have done something very meaningful with their life had they got all the way through high school and college, but for one reason or another get tripped up along the way. So you can look at the number of people in prison, and you can say, well, there's some percentage of those people in prison would have gone on to do something meaningful. We don't know how many, but some percentage of them.
I think about that every time somebody hands me a mixtape. I'm like, this guy probably could have killed cancer. What are you out here wasting your time with rap for? Like, I'm serious.
Well, that's the thing. I think
dentist.
Canada does better than America, right? It's like more people have a shot at potentially being great.
Yeah. By the way, not even great.
Or good.
Just whatever is whatever you're capable of doing, reaching your potential.
Have you been to Sweden?
Yeah, I've been to Sweden.
Okay, so I had this same thought when I was in Sweden. I'm walking around Sweden and like every girl's hot. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, right? And then I realized that they don't lose any of their chicks to fat. Right? Like because they just eat right or something. In America, we got all these really beautiful girls that are fat, so they're cut out of the equation, right? So what happens is by having this diet, you lose nothing to fatness, and then all these girls are immediately bumped up. I don't know if they're intrinsically more beautiful than everybody, but you don't lose anything.
Nah,
and I feel like Canada, you have a certain to a certain extent, you have that in Canada where there's more people get a chance to potentially do something good.
Yeah.
But I think there's a hang up. And this is my thing with Canada.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
I don't think that there's the same drive for greatness.
Well, I'll have several things to say about that. The thing about small countries is that, particularly when they're next door to a large country, is that the people who do have a lot of drive tend to leave. So when you talk about Canada, you got to, I don't mean to be self-referential here, but
sure,
we can walk down the street in Manhattan and every one in every, I don't know what it is, 20 or 25 people you're going to run into is Canadian. They left the country mostly because they wanted a bigger, playing field. They wanted to compete against in a larger stage. So it's confusing because when you're consistently every year losing some percentage of your population to America or England, then it looks like the country isn't producing a lot of.
Oh shit! Okay, right? I'm understanding. So
we kind of are.
You have like a bright flight or whatever they call it in.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you brain drain.
Brain drain.
Bright flight is the same. Imagine. Just look at how many Canadians have come through. Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, we need to build a wall around Canada, especially when Drake and Justin Bieber them come over here and start fucking all our women. Like
with comedy too, all the actors are Canadian and stuff like that's crazy.
You don't even realize it. They're like, oh, he's Canadian. Hugh Jackman.
Drake has done so much for Canadian self-esteem. It's amazing. It's like we were kind of down in the dumps for like years and years and years, and like Justin Bieber was like, okay, but it's like, and then Drake is like, oh, finally.
Dude, I feel like Drake
raised the bar.
Okay, Toronto's this amazing city, right? Yeah. But it doesn't have. In my opinion, it doesn't have the thing that you check out. Like, New York is this great city, and we got the Empire State Building. So it's like there's this excuse to come here, but it's not really the reason. Like Montreal, I love Toronto. Yeah. Montreal, it's the strip clubs or like the French culture, but it's just a great city. But at least you have a little excuse, right? And I was waiting for Toronto to have this bullshit excuse so people could experience this brilliant city.
You know what it is? It's a living. There's a difference between visiting cities and living cities. There are some cities whose charms only emerge when you've lived there for like a year. Go to Toronto and live there for a year, and you'll feel differently. It's just a great place to live.
Oh, I'd love it even to visit. Yeah. I'm just saying, I know that there was this barrier of entry pre-Drake. There was this barrier of entry to Toronto. Yeah. It's like we should go to Toronto for spring break, and it's like why? Now with Drake,
I love that Drake has like turned the tables.
Dude,
Drake. He gave it a name. It's the 6 now.
Yeah,
you want to go just to say you went. I went to the 6. I was in the 6.
People in London are going.
My woes. All right, let's take a break from the OG Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes, sir.
This episode of Brilliant Idiots is brought to you by FanDuel.com. FanDuel is fantasy football for everyday fans with a new contest starting every week. No busted seasons. Just pick a contest, choose your team, and watch your score in real time. And this year, FanDuel is bringing you an upgraded experience. Are you new to fantasy football? Try to begin a contest for new players. Settle a score with a friend in a head-to-head contest. Try a 50-50 contest where the top half wins cash. You can even play for $1. There's a choice for every budget. Hey, I cannot wait. Football season starts Sunday, baby.
Let's go Cowboys or what?
You already know.
Listen. I don't care if it's the Jets or the Giants. I root for whoever's worse. As long as it's a New York team, let's make it happen. And as long as I don't have to watch baseball highlights on fucking ESPN anymore, that's all I care about. Okay? I hate it. Now, have all that fantasy football that you want in your life, okay? But fantasy right now, the way you play it is at FanDuel. Okay, you sign up today. You go to FanDuel.com, click the Join Now button, and use our code BRILLIANT. And a special offer for new users, by the way, deposit today and you'll get 5 free entries to NFL beginner contests. You'll get 1 free entry a week, 5 weeks in a row. They're 50-50 contests where the top half of the players win cash. Don't forget to use our code BRILLIANT for 5 free entries. Void where prohibited. FanDuel, be sports rich.
And we're going to set up a Brilliant Idiots fan league.
Oh, Chris is telling me right now we're going to set up a Brilliant Idiots fan league so you can play against us and get that ass bust like you did last year, okay? You know, if you want to come get it, you come get it.
Now back to Mr. Malcolm Gladwell. I like what you said about Drake boosted Toronto's self-esteem because that's what I love about what you said with the whole talent, hard work, opportunity, preparation. You can create your own privilege. Because I'm like, what can we do to help boost the self-esteem of oppressed and marginalized people in America?
Wow, that's a really that's a hard one.
Let's unpack it.
Let's
That's what your
unpack it.
intellect say. Let's unpack
Yeah.
it.
I've been typecast on this one.
In the best way possible.
So here's the question. So there's a number of different ways people have thought about this. So you need, point number one is you need to have role models, obviously. There has to be someone who came before you who showed it was possible. So one question is, to what extent did Obama permanently change the way people of color in this country think about their opportunities? Now, part of me says he totally permanently changed it. Another part of me says he went through so much bullshit and attracted so much irrational hatred that another way to read it is, wow, that's what happens when, probably if we were going to be totally objective, one of the best presidents we've had in a very, very long time.
Easily.
A man who has never lost his cool, was gracious and elegant and represented this country well and kept us out of trouble and did so many, rescued us after the madness of...
Just level-headed.
Level-headed. Yeah. And what happened? What happened is that people hated him so much that Congress became completely dysfunctional in his last, So I look at that and I think, I don't know, is that encouraging or is it in some sense discouraging?
I think it's encouraging from the standpoint of America voted him in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that shows that maybe that it's a change in the way society as a whole thinks. But then I think it reverts right back to negative thinking about yourself when you see like the unarmed killing of the killing of unarmed black men in America and things of that nature.
Yeah. So now the second. Okay, that's the second thing I want to talk about. That we've suddenly become incredibly focused on this thing of young black men being shot by cops. I think that's positive and not negative. I say that in the following way. Not positive they're being shot.
What do you mean? I'm about to say, wow, Malcolm.
No.
What research did you read that shows that?
What happened to David? You're acting very Goliath right now, Gladwell.
Hold on. Yeah, that's not... I need to explain what happened.
Yes.
That's been going on for 200 years in this country, and no one said anything about it. Right? Finally, we're saying something about it. That is really good news. Like this is the thing about these shootings of unarmed black men. It is not a new phenomenon.
Right.
Like it may have been way worse. I have no idea. It went on for years and years and years and years and years. Nobody said a peep. Finally, in 2014, 2015, 2016, people are like, wait a minute, this is not something that should be happening in the United States. That to me is the kind of fear and controversy over this over the last 10 years is one of the biggest step forwards in race relations we have made in a generation.
Yeah, I mean, you can't fix problems if you don't talk about
exactly.
it. And a lot of us really, I'm not gonna say we didn't know it wasn't going on, but the new media is what really exposed it.
Yeah.
When you're looking online every other day and you're seeing,
I think a lot of white Americans did not know.
A lot of white Americans didn't know it.
Had no clue.
Well, Ice Cube said that. The great urban philosopher Ice Cube, he said that in Boys in the Hood. He said either a lot of people don't know, don't show, or don't give a damn about what's going on in the hood. And that was after Ricky got killed. And he was like, I was watching the news. That was one of the most poignant parts of that movie. Like, I was watching the news and didn't see anything about my brother. Because you got to think, your brother just got killed. This guy that could possibly go to the NFL. So that's the biggest thing in the world to him. He thinks he's going to see it on CNN. Nothing.
Okay, how much of that is like natural human thinking where we compartmentalize stuff and like I don't know, on a daily basis, I don't think I'm sitting down here and I'm going, oh man, those drone strikes are really fucked up, and I'm putting on some Nike clothing and going, some kids made this in a sweatshop. Like, how much is it natural for us to literally not give a fuck so that we can actually go through our day?
Yeah, I think it's totally natural. And I think that's why you have to work so hard to bring something from that kind of, that's been buried and bring it to light and keep it in the light. That's the thing. You can't stop. You can't, the next time an unarmed black man is shot by a police officer, we need to shout just as loudly as we've been shouting already. We got to do it until it becomes something that people understand as part of the reality of the United States, right? When we get to that level, then we can sort of go back to normal. But you get, it takes, this is the thing I always talk about. When I went back I went back a couple years ago and started to read a lot about the civil rights movement in the 60s. And the thing that I took away from that, which I think always gets overlooked, is that how long Martin Luther King was at it. The Montgomery bus boycott is 1954. Was it 52, 54? Birmingham is 63. So his first major public action happens 10 years before the high watermark of he's in the wilderness for 10 years, fighting all the time, every day. Like, this isn't something he checks in and checks out of. And in that stretch between Montgomery and he fails, he's shot down, he's denounced by his own community. I mean, I could go on. It is like that man toiled to get to the point where he could finally make a difference, and we got the Civil Rights Act in 1964. That notion of toil and of that level of commitment over that many years is the thing I think we always overlook. That if you want to take on these issues, you have to be in it for the long haul.
No, and that's what I feel we don't have now. I feel like, a guy will get shot and everybody will hashtag on Twitter, and you might see a few protests, and then it goes away for a while until the next person gets shot. Then the noise comes again. But you got to keep that noise up. The boycott was like, what, 5 years, Chris? The Montgomery boycott. It was like 5 years. Who does that now?
Yeah,
who's going to commit that long to protest?
Yeah, we want instant gratification right now. So we want the retweets. We want, and I wonder if it would have happened faster now because of the different avenues for exposure. Like, I think there's a direct correlation between like people finding out that black people are getting killed by the cops and cameras on phones.
Yeah,
well, he did the same thing in Vietnam,
right? Like
nobody knew how bad the war
until
was
they put the cameras over there, or even to go back to the boycotts. It's like, once white people saw dogs getting sicked on black people and the hoses, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I think it's hard for us to conceptualize how much more segregated society, at least us in New York, was back then. Maybe in the South it's still like that in a lot of areas. But the fact that you brought up this idea about toil, I've always been interested in your process. Like, what is your process when you're looking into something? How does it start with a premise and you look for proof? Do you go in blind? How deep do you go before you decide to publish?
Yeah.
Can you take us through that?
Try to go in blind. Try not to go in with something. I mean, there are sort of broad areas I'm interested in. Like at the moment, I'm really interested in just a really simple question of what happens when you meet someone face to face. What are the things that can go wrong? Because lots of things go wrong in face-to-face
Why are you such a
encounters.
pessimist, Malcolm? Why do you want to think about things going wrong?
Have you had some awkward first dates?
No.
Because as a man, if I meet a woman, well, I'm married now, but you meet a woman, I'm thinking I'm going to fuck her. I'm not thinking about nothing that can go wrong.
Well, I don't think I'll be talking about romantic things in this.
Okay.
No, I'm interested in, like, so much of, here's an example. I started this book. Actually, you're absolutely right. This is the most depressing topic known to man. But I got really interested in the decision during the Bush years to torture people. So why did they decide to use torture? Because the thing about torture is there's very little evidence that it works. In fact, most of the evidence that we have, scientific evidence, suggests it's the worst thing you can do if you want to find out the truth about something. It's torture.
Really?
Yeah. Because for a number of reasons.
Well, Why is it that?
Why doesn't it work?
No. Why is it that it's the worst thing?
Because when you talk to interrogators, if you're a suspected terrorist, I'm interrogating you.
I'm not Muslim. I'm not offended.
If the interrogation goes well, it's going to take weeks. Nothing ever happens in an hour or 2 hours. We're going to be talking for weeks. That's the only way I'm gonna. And what I want from you is not just little shiny individual facts. I've interrogated 50 people from your group, and I've got a big mosaic, and I'm filling in all the little pieces, right? So I'm leading you down through memories that you had 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Do you have any memory of this guy? When did you meet him? Like really specific, fine stuff. When you torture somebody, in other words, if I'm interrogating you, I need your memory. That's what I need. I need your cooperation, but I also need your memory. The effect when you torture someone, when you put someone under physiological and emotional stress, you destroy their memory.
So they can go in like a shock where they really don't remember it.
They don't remember.
They might know everything.
They can't access it.
You got the freaking.
So one of the things the Bush administration did is they would use sleeplessness. They would keep someone awake tie them to a wall for 72 hours, right? So let me ask you this. If I force you to stay awake for 72 hours, could you function? Could you do the show? Could you? No, you couldn't do anything.
Dude, that is
good.
Imagine any time.
Because I ain't gonna lie, I was in the sauna the other day, and the sauna said 200 degrees. And I was in there for 10 minutes. I was like, yo, you turn this up to another 50 minutes. I don't know why I thought about that. If I was being interrogated, I would tell everything. He would make me tell everything. I'm like, y'all got to get out of here, please. I'll tell you whatever you need.
But the other thing is, you may well, if I've tortured you, want to say everything. But what you're telling me may no longer be accurate because I have messed with literally the part of your brain that deals with memories gets affected in a bad way when you're put under that kind of stress. So it's self-defeating. I've tortured you, and I don't know whether what you're telling me is true anymore, or even, and you can no longer find the thing in your memory that I want you to find.
So you've thought about this. What's the best way to get information out of a person?
Is to take your time, establish a rapport with them, and have as long conversations with them as you can.
That's like that wind and the sun fable, where they talk about how the wind and the sun had a battle about who can get the person naked first. Like make them take their coat off.
Yeah, I love that you went to naked, but that.
The guy eventually did get naked, but the wind was blowing all hard and crazy, so the guy held his coat tight, but the sun came out warm.
That is exactly that.
Yeah.
I was reading this book when I was on this. It's a totally weird book. There was a famous interrogator for the German Air Force during World War II who interrogated hundreds of captured Allied airmen. So you get shot down over Germany. They would bring you to this guy, and he would interrogate you. And all of the airmen would say, I went in there, name, rank, and serial number. That's it. I'm not telling you anything. This guy he became your friend. He talked to you. And they would end up telling him this stuff, and they'd be like, I can't believe I just... And after the war, they all contacted him. They're like,
you want to hang out?
I just have to say, I can't believe you did what you did. And he never laid a hand on them. And he was the most extraordinary interrogator. And after the war, the Pentagon brings him to America to give lectures on how to interrogate.
What's this guy's name so I can look him?
I can't remember. I was just reading this. It's this hilarious book. But it reminds you... So. In the Bush administration, they take all that and they just throw it out the window and they decide, what we want to do? We really want to make these guys suffer as much as possible.
Maybe they just wanted to make people suffer.
That's what they did.
Here's a question.
That's exactly what they wanted to do.
Is it... Yeah. Oh, I wonder if this is possible. Do you think that maybe the most effective tool of torture won't be torturing you, but torturing your loved ones?
Ooh.
Like if I want to get information out of you, bring your wife and kid over, waterboard them while you're sitting right there. Now your memory's fine.
But now you have to be... Do you want to be... You got to be a special kind of psychopath.
Well, we blow them up in drone strikes. I mean, this is better. They just get a little wet.
Yeah, it's true. But this gets down to this core issue, which is, when I was reading this, I got really, really depressed because the whole Iraq War thing happens, and I was dimly aware of it. But now I'm really ashamed about, as someone who lives in this country, about
it was over nothing.
It was over nothing.
It literally was over nothing.
We killed so many people over there. And we tortured people, and at the end of the day, why?
And lost so many of ours. The biggest thing that came out of this whole war in the Middle East was ISIS. That's all we created.
What, the vacuum that is left after we pulled out of Iraq?
What did we gain? All America gained was an enemy called ISIS. We didn't gain anything from that shit.
Yeah. It's really depressing. Anyway, I got so depressed thinking about this, I thought maybe I should write a book about it. So I'm interested in these sorts of issues about how people get convinced.
So what would the new book be about? Like,
it would
communication with people? Or?
Yeah. So the question is, to use the torture thing again, why did they do it? Well, because George Bush trusted Dick Cheney, and Dick Cheney believed in torture. It's as simple as that. So you have your guy's his best friend. Guy says, I think this is a good idea, and Bush is like, all right. That's literally. I'm simplifying it, but that's literally.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this formal process where they looked at the research and taught and extent. No, they had a conversation. Yeah, I think so.
Hey, why would you listen to him?
Well, so this is the thing. I don't know if we were talking about this, but like, when you're like, no president is actually an expert in anything when you think about it, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not economists, so they don't know about the economy. They're not, health people. They don't know about health. So essentially, you're electing their hiring skills.
Exactly. You're electing their friends.
They're friends.
That's what it is.
So who are Donald Trump's
Who's
friends?
his friends?
Omarosa? You know what I mean?
No, remember that's what I said about Hillary. I was like, yo, even if you don't like Hillary, if you watch that DNC convention, bro, they're the Avengers. They got Michelle Obama, they got Joe Biden, they got Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. They got a squad.
Yeah.
You at least vote for the squad.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Do
who
you
you're
think
electing.
that she's smart enough to surround herself with people that are intelligent?
Yeah.
It really comes down to that. Like,
You want to vote for Donald Trump? Scott Baio?
Scott Bale's going to be your fucking cabinet.
That was the best they could do. They spanned the entire universe of living and past Hollywood celebrities, and they came up with Scott Baio.
Fucking Charles in charge.
You didn't even get the Fonz. Henry Winkler wasn't available. Henry Winkler would have been a better look than goddamn Scott Baio.
Guy is so bush league. It's unreal.
So I want so when you say you meet people and you say it's depressing, when does it ever become fulfilling, I guess?
Well, it is. It ends up. I think hopefully, if I write the book, it'll end up being fulfilling. But one of the points I want to make is that you are a kind of prisoner of the people around. Not prisoner, it's a bad way of saying it, but who you are is a function of the people around you. They're the ones who tell you things and fill your mind and influence your opinions, and you have no choice but to trust your friends. Mm-hmm. And that means that sometimes you will be badly misled. But the worst reaction to being badly misled is to mistrust everyone. You have to go back. You just got to go back and say, you know what? I got the price of being someone who has friends is that 1 in every 10 times I'm going to be screwed over.
Yeah.
But you got to accept that fact. And we can't. I feel like that not just on an individual level, but as a societal level, we have trouble with that. We get so obsessed with stopping the 1 in 10 when we're screwed over that we forget that actually no, life is about the 9 times when things went well.
Why do we do that as a people? Like, it's even like that with social media. You can see 20 tweets about you that's great. Oh, I loved your show today, Charlamagne, whatever. But that one, man, I hate your fucking show. You ain't shit. You make me sick. You reply to that one.
Yeah, you got to stop reading your Twitter.
I got to stop reading.
This guy reads it. But.
Who in the history of Twitter, who has ever looked through tweets directed at themselves and felt better as a result? It's never happened.
Yeah.
You know what I will say? You develop a numbness that is powerful.
Well, my daddy gave me that numbness a long time ago. 'Cause my father always told me, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. He told me that when I was a kid. So I've always carried that with me.
Yeah, yeah.
But I feel like not everybody has that kind of like sociopathic numbness. Like I always call him a sociopath, and I mean it in a good way. Like it's unbelievable what he's, dude. It's unbelievable what he's. You know how there's like serial killer sociopaths, and then there's like successful businessmen.
I'm like Dexter. I kill the right people.
You're not even killing yet, but let this shit not work out, and some people gonna go. You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, I think there might be. I think there's some kind of advantage to like when you're shit on constantly. Eventually, you develop a coping mechanism for that. Maybe the same thing with dyslexia, right?
Yeah. David and Goliath thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So the same thing happens. Like, because now I will be honest, I'm less affected by negative shit than I was in the beginning. I remember being like, oh fuck, that's so fucked up, and you only get called a fucking asshole. You know what I mean? I mean, you don't even know what I gotta go through.
The greatest tweet of all time was about 3 years ago.
You're talking about this.
Andrew used to wear the same sneakers all the time. So somebody goes, there goes Schultz with them same whack ass 3s on. And Andrew's tweet, I could hear it in his voice. I could hear it in the tweet. He goes, yo, what's up with you, bro? Don't let him get to you, Andrew. Don't let him break you. And ever since then, he's been buying a new pair of sneakers every other week.
Listen, I coped. That was my coping mechanism.
You coped.
Okay?
You got better.
I understand what you're saying, though, because even as a public figure, it's like you don't know who to trust. I think that's what is what causes you to have the pessimism, at least for me. Because it's like people walk up to you in the street, they want to shake your hand, they want to take pictures, but I've been attacked also. So I don't know who's who. So that, I think, is the sadness of it all.
Yeah.
I have to approach everything with a, let me make sure he's not trying to get me first.
That's heartbreaking
mentality.
Yeah. When you it's no way. It's that's the worst thing in the world is when you have to cross over when you're when your fear of that 10% or 1% or whatever it is legitimately so large that you have to change your life.
I mean, you could argue that that's happening right now for black people in America. With the police, there is a legitimate fear that they'll be killed by the police that is statistically not supported in terms of how great the fear is. Like percentage-wise, you have a much greater chance of getting killed in a car accident or something like that than getting killed by the cops. But if I was a black dude, or to my friends that are black, and the cops pull us over, I'm going, let's chill out. I even have that fear.
You think that's irrational?
Why does that happen?
Well, it's rational in the sense that it's different if your fear is of the cops, because so you statistically have a greater chance of dying in a car accident, whatever. But a car accident is it's a car accident. It's someone hits you with a 2-ton thing, but the cops are not supposed to be shooting you if you're innocent. So it's a very different. You're supposed to trust them. Their job is to protect you. So when you're betrayed by someone whose job it is to protect you, that's a whole different level of betrayal. It's funny. We were talking about the Iverson thing. There's this moment in the Iverson thing that I almost wanted to cry. They're interviewing the white prosecutor who wanted to put him behind bars for 17 years for maybe being part of like a fight in the way that anyway. So she says, well, one of the reasons they only prosecuted, there's a fight between white people and black people, they only prosecuted black kids. And they said, well, the reason we went after the black kids is that the black kids all left and the white kids stayed behind and talked to the cops. So we took that as evidence of who felt that they were at fault. Like, never for a moment did it occur to her that if you were a black kid in a place like, where was he, Hampton Roads?
Virginia. Getting the hell out of there.
Of course you get the hell out of there. Like, and that is a rational response. If the system itself is so unjust, that's the way you're going to react. It never dawned on her that there was a perfectly innocent and rational reason why Iverson would have fled the first minute and all of his friends would have fled the first minute.
They could have been outnumbered.
Yeah, it's like,
I looked at the opposite. It's like, of course you were there when the cops came because you got your asses kicked. Like, you were on the ground. Like, if you're just waking up when the cops come, you'll talk to them. When the black dudes rolled out.
And also, everyone that you saw, I don't know why this case has affected me so much, but I just saw it last night. It's like, it just made me, in the documentary, you see the prosecutor, you see the judge, you see all the people who were involved in the administration of justice. They're all white. Well, of course the white kids stayed because they were secure in the knowledge that the entire process was going to be adjudicated by white people. If your home team is already lined up, you would have perfect faith the system's going to work out in your favor. It's like, that's
when you write these books like The Outliers and David and Goliath. Where do you write from a personal perspective, or
sometimes?
Have you ever considered yourself marginalized, or do you deal with a lot of marginalized people? Or?
I have been very lucky in that I grew up in a part of Canada where there was zero racial tension, and where my mom was my mom was embraced by the local community. So I never had not until I came to the United States did I ever think about race as an issue in any kind of negative way.
I can only dream of such a life.
And why do you think that there is such a stark difference between Canada and America and racial tension?
First of all, we're out in the countryside in a small town that was very in a heavily Mennonite area, and Mennonites are a Protestant denomination. They are among the most open, socially liberal, accepting, and literally it never came up. My mom was like, they brought her in, no one never heard about it. It was sort of weird. It's also, remember as well, there's a different dynamic in Canada when you have most black people in Canada are relatively recent West Indian immigrants. And there is no legacy of slavery. There isn't so it's totally different. You go to Toronto and you're dealing with West Indians who've been there for 10 years. That is very different from people who were brought to this country under very different circumstances 250 years ago.
I feel like, and I said this 4 years ago, I feel like they started planting seeds in a generation of kids that weren't even thinking about racism. Because I feel like I'm not saying we were headed to a post-racial society, but you had we weren't thinking about that shit. Like, it wasn't those divides anymore. It wasn't like, oh, he's white,
Yeah.
I'm black. I can't do this because I'm black. Or he can't do this because he's white. Like the lines were just so blurred. We was just growing and grooving. And then George Zimmerman and Trayvon happened.
Yeah.
And the media used that as a, you know what? Let's go.
Yeah.
Now it's time to plant those seeds.
Yeah. No, it's the fact that the Trump thing, if it happened, the idea of having a president who has 0% support in the black community, and like literally close to zero in the Hispanic community. I mean, the idea of having a leader who is completely anathema to enormous stretches of the American population is just so. That would be hard.
It's taking us backwards. Because Barack did the exact opposite. Barack was all of us coming together. Barack was a Kanye West concert.
Yeah.
Like seriously, it was that.
It was more of a Drake concert because Kanye don't let anybody come to his shit.
Yeah, but Kanye was very diverse. I mean, Kanye and Drake, those are two good examples of audiences that are very diverse. Yeah. And I feel like that's what Barack represented. Trump is freaking Dixie Chicks.
Wait, have you had Barack? Have you had Obama on this show?
No, he hasn't.
Why haven't you? Why have you? He would come.
You know what? We emailed him, and he didn't even reply to his email. Not everybody's
You can't
replying.
email. You gotta. You know someone who knows someone. He loves doing this. Is one of his favorite things.
I've talked to Bernie. I've talked to Hillary.
Yeah.
No.
So you've gotten a chance to talk to Barack at length.
Not at length. I was once invited 2 years ago. I was invited. He has those dinners on Saturday night every couple of weeks, and I got invited to one. It was like. So I was so starstruck.
You make it sound so nonchalant. Like we didn't know Barack has dinners every 2 weeks. For people.
He has dinners on that group chat, and it was so fun. But I couldn't. Every time I was, just me and him talking. I was so I couldn't. I mean, I was like, nothing came out of my mouth.
He's a great guy to interview about the communication.
He's the ultimate outlier, right?
I don't know about ultimate outlier, but like he's one of those guys where. He is so mind-bogglingly comfortable in
his own skin,
and how other people are uncomfortable around him. Like he doesn't get flustered when you're babbling or anything like that.
He's so smooth. Yeah, it's like he's a remarkable man.
Did you ask him about that?
He's got to be naive in a way.
Well,
good naive though.
Good naive, totally good naive. I think when he was running for public office. I think he took all that stuff about what's going to happen if I win and just put it aside and said, I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to go for it. And I don't understand how he kept his cool. I honestly don't through 8 years. I mean, all the shit he took. It's like, and we don't know the half of it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Here he is, in his dealings with Congress. These are people who basically said, for the first time in American history, a Republican lawmaker, I'm just not going to deal with you with the president at all. Why? Because I don't like the color of his skin, essentially. Like, can you imagine what that's like if you're trying to, in good faith, run a country, and the people you're supposed to run it with decide to sit on their hands? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like that. To wake up. I mean, how does he even get any sleep?
I would love to know his faith because. It has to be a strong faith because it's almost like I would be in a constant state of fear. Like even when he lets like his kids go to like concerts like Made in America, like I would be scared that somebody's gonna do something to my kids. Like that I just would like to know what his faith is like.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember when he was sworn in. Did you guys get this feeling at all?
Yeah, I was waiting for the gunshots to go off.
I'm literally watching him giving the speech, counting down the moments until he walks off the stage. I remember sitting there with my parents. Both my parents are tearing. This is a beautiful moment. And all I can think is, please, God, don't let him get off the fucking
it was
stage.
when he was, for me, it was after that and they was in the car. And then they got out of the car and was walking. You don't remember that?
No.
Yeah, it was just him and Michelle walking next to the beast or whatever they call it. And I'm like, why is he walking?
Outside.
Like, why?
Yeah.
Andrew has a theory, right? He said that you don't want to know too much. Like, you don't want to know how the food is made.
Ah.
Yeah.
And we feel like that's what's causing the irrational fears in America right now because we're seeing too much. How do you feel about that?
That's interesting. Well, maybe the seeing too much is a kind of, maybe you got to go through that stage to get to some better level, right? I mean, what I hope is that, like when we were talking about all the police shootings, It's really, really freaking people out and getting people really angry and upset. But maybe after another 3-4 years of it, we come out a better place. I mean, maybe that's me being crazily optimistic, but the point is, there is never a smooth path to getting better as a country. If you look at what happened after, schools were desegregated in the South, everything took a step backwards for a generation. They brought in a bunch of racists as governors of all of the major. I mean, the Southern whites went crazy. I mean, you have to go. You have to be prepared for that kind of nuttiness, extended nuttiness, if you want to come out better in the end.
Well, see, my guy Mark Lamont Hill says he thinks that it'll be great if Trump wins, because he says he feels like America has to hit rock bottom in order to become a great society again.
He also says that black people aren't capable of racism.
I don't agree with that, but I don't agree with everybody.
I think that makes.
I'm starting to think Mark is a nut.
Nah,
I really am. I'm losing respect for Mark, man.
Mark Sharp. I mean, the thing with people is some people are going to say things that you really agree with, and then they're going to say things that you don't agree with.
Yeah, but some things you don't say preposterous things, because preposterous things take away from your equity as a believable person.
But he's got a good argument about black people and why they can't be racist.
Why is that?
He said racism. When we're angry at white people, it's a reaction. I don't just hate a white person because they're white. White people will hate you just because of the color of your skin. I'm hating you because you're prejudiced against me.
But what if someone isn't prejudiced against you and you hate them?
Then that's not.
What if you have a nice Mennonite from northern Toronto area that all he wants to do is take care of you, and you just can't stop calling him a cracker and beating him up?
But that's why it's on a case-by-case basis. Like with the Allen Iverson thing. Allen Iverson probably hated the guy who prosecuted him but loved his tutor.
So
I think it has to do with, I think the other element of this is power. That it's not that black people are incapable of racism, it's just that their racism has very different consequences. If you're a white person and you're racist, you can actually make your prejudices real. You can enact a system that makes them permanent and that impoverishes huge. If you're someone who's marginalized and you happen to have some set of hostile beliefs, it doesn't matter that much, right? There's nothing you can do with it.
I mean, Oprah could do something. Obama could do something. Like, I don't. Here's my thing. I don't subscribe to that mentality because I think it paints black people as this weak group that can't really make change, can't really do anything. Like, if Tyler Perry wants to be prejudiced in his hiring practices, he could easily do that, and he has a huge effect on an economy in Atlanta and also on the movie business. So, for me to sit back and go, black people are incapable of being racist because we don't have any power.
No, but use the hiring. The hiring example is a good one. So, if you think about, for years and years and years and years in all kinds of different organizations, white people ran the show, and so they hired other white people. Mm-hmm. Now, every now and again, if you go to, I don't know, I've never been on the set of Tyler Perry's show, but I've been on, I did Oprah once. You go on Oprah.
It's a black person hiring other black people.
It's all black people.
Great.
Right? Now, so are those two things equivalent? No, they are not. They may both come from the same place, that I want to hire people like me, but in one case it is a makeup for hundreds of years of, and in the other case it's an expression of your power, right? Yeah. So I think those are. I don't think we can lump them together.
I don't mean to compare them in terms of I think if you're a black-owned business, you want to hire black people, great, that's awesome, do it. I think if you have the mentality, I hate white people and I'm not going to hire white people because I hate white people, that's comparable to a white person only hiring his friends.
Well, see, this is the thing.
It's context behind it.
I've never met a black person who just hates white people just because.
Crystal?
No. Crystal hates white people because of history, because of slavery, because of segregation, because of what she feels like is institutionalized racism. It's not just fuck you because of the color of your skin.
Yeah.
Like, I've never met a black person who just hates white people.
But you think that that's a justifiable hatred?
What?
I just don't think. I don't think that we should start justifying hate. Like, the idea is to move beyond that, right?
I don't think hate is ever justified, but I can understand it. I think it's I think it's understandable hatred and justifiable hatred. I don't think hate is ever justifiable, but I can understand it. Like, somebody kills your mom, I can understand why you would hate that
absolutely person. But would you hate everybody with the same skin color as that person?
No, absolutely not.
So then
generalizations are terrible. Absolutely not.
Okay, I have a question for you that I want to ask.
And then we're going to let him go because he clearly.
Okay.
No, that's not true. I'm enjoying
Well,
this.
I get so excited
He doesn't
about
want to
having
be here for 10,000 hours.
Okay. At what point? Okay, people talk a lot about like Trump being responsible for his the actions of his followers.
Yeah.
Right, and how he's enacting this sort of hatred in them, and is somebody responsible? Right, you're somebody who people look up to and they believe what you say dogmatically, and they'll literally, I've heard people just quote your stuff as if it is fact. Like they'll be like, a broken window theory, or like whatever the different stuff in Tipping Point and all these kind of stuff like that, right? I'll just quote it. Do you feel responsible for the work you publish and the beliefs that people have going on after they read it?
Well, I probably should. The problem I have is that I don't consider things I write to be the last word. Not only do I sometimes get things wrong, but I change my mind. I mean, I don't think the same way about the world as I did when I wrote my first book or even my second book. Why? Because
I
I'm
don't
a
want to
human
hear
being.
that. How dare you tell me that, Malcolm Gladwell?
No.
I do not want to hear that.
I love this, by the way. I think it is so good that you're putting this out here. This is the problem with religion. We need,
You don't have to change them. You've got to grow as a human being, and when you grow as a human being, think about it. If we go back, let's all of us go back 15 years. Okay, what were you wearing 15 years ago? Were you wearing the same stuff you wear now?
Absolutely.
bullshit.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, absolutely. Like, I
You
understand what
weren't
you're
listening to the same music.
Yeah.
You were. I mean, you have different friends. You like to. I mean, everything about your life. Not everything. Many things about your life have changed. Why? Because you have a brain, and the world is different, and you respond.
Yes.
And the people who are a lot of people who we have been talking about in a negative way over the course of this, people we object to in society, are objectionable precisely because they refuse to do
They grow. and
They will
evolve.
not grow. Right?
Yes.
I can understand, not agree with, understand if a white person living in rural Georgia in 1900 was a racist. I can understand that. I cannot understand if that same person feels that same way in 2016.
That's
Right?
a brilliant
Yeah.
idiot rule.
Right there.
We don't say that 100 million times.
You got to change your mind. So I change my mind. Stuff I don't know. I just put stuff out there, and on what I want people when they read my stuff or listen to my podcast is I don't care if they agree with me. In fact, don't agree with me. Disagree with me, but just be engaged. Use the opportunity to use your brain, right? And by the way, we all need more chances to have a workout with our brain.
Who are the ultimate outliers to you right now?
Who do I admire the most? Aside from my boy Usain Bolt.
You think he's an outlier?
Oh, okay.
I'm
and then I want to. Then I want to
the
ask you a
Jamaican
question.
part of
I'm about
me
to say
has
it.
got to say,
Bolt or Phelps?
oh, Bolt.
That's what I said, and he was disagreeing with me.
What?
I disagree.
Yeah, you were like, you said that they're both specialized in the same way,
Yeah,
but
I
it's
think
not
they're both
necessarily.
special. Because I don't.
Bolt is more impressive,
Bolt
right?
can't swim like Phelps, and Phelps can't run like Bolt.
Okay, what is your argument for why Bolt is a
Well,
better?
It's
He's
totally
Jamaican.
right.
First of all, he's totally biased.
I'm completely biased.
He's totally biased. here.
I'm completely biased. Of course I'm going to love Bolt. Bolt, I guess I would say, this is not relevant to this, that Bolt matters more than Phelps does. Listen, you guys are all Americans. You got 315 million people. You churn out a fantastic athlete every single year. There's a different one that you go gaga about.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people live in Jamaica? Ready? 2.5 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? So
Unbelievable.
Usain Bolt matters 100 times more than Michael Phelps
We never
does.
took that. We never take stuff like that into consideration.
Yeah.
Who
Well, I was just talking about
matters
an athlete.
more?
And by the way, when the think about this in terms of the relay team. Jamaican relay team, 4x100 meter relay wins at the Olympics. Okay, so when the size of your country really matters when you're talking about a relay team, right? So 4 guys out of a country of 315 million people failed to beat 4 guys from a country of 2.5 million people. Thank you very much. That Jamaica victory over the United States was huge.
Okay.
Absolutely huge.
Okay, here's maybe this is some more fodder in the future for why Bolt is better than Phelps. I think that Bolt excels in something that more people have done. Not everybody has swam.
It's true. I actually totally agree with you.
So
Totally agree.
his skill set is actually comparable to everybody who's fucking run before. There's no hidden runner out there. Whereas LeBron, if LeBron was swimming since he was a kid, maybe he'd be better than Phelps.
Yeah.
You can't tell me 6'9", perfect human specimen.
Yeah, we'll never know. Yeah, the universe, in order to be a champion swimmer, you have to, let's be very, very clear, live in a developed country and come from a lot of money.
Yep.
Someone has got to drive you to a multi-million-dollar pool facility with its
Come on.
No, this
No.
is true,
All
dude.
that water around
This is
Jamaica. You say he could have learned to swim if he wanted to. Stop it.
You need to run your ass in the pool.
Stop it. You want to eat Usain? Go get that fish out the water. He could have learned to swim.
I love Usain. Usain's got also there's just so much charisma. There's a moment, my favorite moment of the entire Rio Games is that I'm a total track nerd, just to be clear. In the 200-meter semifinal, there's a Canadian guy named Andre DeGrasse,
Love
incredibly
him.
cool guy.
This guy's good.
Really good.
Yeah.
And they're in adjoining lanes in the semifinal, and they are so far ahead of everybody else, and they're running at an insane time, by the way. And as they come down the backstretch, they turn to each other as they're running like faster than anybody else in the world, and just start joking back and forth. And you just watch. There's a famous picture of the two of them with these smiles on their faces, and it's two people at the absolute pinnacle of athletic achievement, just enjoying the moment. And I was like, that's what it's all about. That's why I watch sports, right? Just to see that kind of like pleasure they get. And I can think of, if you think about the last 20 years of basketball, say, there are probably 10 moments like that. There was one go back to Iverson. Last night in the Iverson documentary, they show that moment when Iverson crosses over Jordan. And Jordan's just like, remember that? And like everyone, we all remember that. Why? Because it lasted a second, maybe a second and a half, but it will stay with us for as long as we live. That is the particular pleasure that sports brings you.
What intrigues you more, physical or mental outliers?
I think they're both. I don't draw a distinction. I think they're both bring me the same kind of pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Damn, man. I'm inspired.
Man,
this was so great,
man.
dude.
I am. I'm definitely inspired. I guess the only other thing I wanted to ask you was about was about the whole privilege thing. Like, what? Just in quickly, what's the easiest way to create your own privilege here in America?
To create your own privilege here in America is to drown out all the noise. I think. I mean, just to what we were saying before. I mean, that if you're someone who has some ability, and even if the cards are stacked against you, there's a certain point where you have to stop worrying about all that stuff and just go and do it, right? Just that. I mean, even if you're facing obstacles that most people aren't, and those obstacles are unfair, there's a point at which you just have to put it aside and say, I'm going with this. And
I feel like you got to find that one thing that empowers you. That one thing that inspires you, like how you said Drake is for Toronto, whatever it is. You just have to find that one thing and say, you know what, I can do it too. Yeah.
All right, my last question is, who is the most profound thinker that you notice currently?
Oh, wow. That's sort of an impossible question to answer for the following reason, and that is that there's no one person who I think can capture all the things that as human beings we need to think about. I think I think you get into it's a mistake to sort of identify one person and just follow that one person. I think you were saying earlier, you got to have a squad.
Yeah.
Individuals have to have squads. You have to have a group of people who inspire you in different ways and who give you different things. And I can give you, it's much easier for me to give you a list of 20 people.
Or what about a starting five? You give me your starting 5 minds.
Starting 5 minds.
And don't include yourself.
They're going to be, well, I wouldn't include myself. My people who consistently inspire me on a...
Sure.
Such a hard question. Okay, I'm going to go all nerdy. I'm going to start with the musician Brian Eno.
Eno, okay.
Who there's a kind of intelligence and gracefulness in his music that always takes me somewhere new. And there's a psychologist called Dick Nisbet who is has inspired. There's a whole group of psychologists out there, all of whom do really interesting things, who are all inspired by Dick Nisbet. Mm-hmm. And Nisbet is the guy who's been arguing for years and years and years and years that the way we behave and the way we think is much more of a function of our environment than we imagine, and much less a function of just how we're hardwired. Mm-hmm. He's been standing up to all those people who say it's all in your genes. And he's saying, you know what? It's a lot more complicated than that. And by changing people's environments, or when people proactively change their own environment, they can change their own outcomes in really interesting and subtle ways. He's not talking about you can become rich if you go. Right. He's talking about you can see things more clearly, or a part of your personality can be expressed, a beautiful part of it can be expressed if you choose to hang out with certain kinds of people in certain settings. So I think he's been incredibly important to me. Who else? I'm just going to start listing runners after a certain point.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm kidding. I admire...
you admire The Office?
The television show?
No, authors.
Oh, authors. Yeah. I said The Office.
That was the greatest lisp in history right there. That was the Usain Bolt of lisps.
Because I always think about like Robert Greene, and it seems like the mastery was kind of like a... Like he took the outliers concept and just doubled the numbers.
No, that is...
He did. He was like, nope, you need 20,000. No, seriously.
No, he did.
I'm serious.
The Michael Lewis, who's a contemporary of mine, who writes, these sort of not similar books, but nonfiction books, but he's a much better storyteller than I am. And I just said, and he's tackled so many different, he wrote The Blind Side, he wrote Liar's Poker, he wrote that great book on baseball, Moneyball. He's just, every time he writes a book, I see a different part of the world in a whole new light. And I just think that's amazing that he does that in 75,000 words. He can just sort of illuminate a part of our society that I hadn't seen before. That I've always just been, you could do a lot worse than simply reading all of his books. I could go on forever.
What do you say? So I feel like I got you here. I want to ask you things, but then you'll go. What do you feel about these guys? Sam Harris? I'm sure you're familiar with Sam, and who are getting a lot of flack for speaking about religion in the way that they do, and they're kind of being painted as more by some as like bigots, etc. Do you subscribe to calling them bigots for speaking their mind about this?
Well, I'm religious, so.
What's your
I come from a profoundly religious family, and
you strike me as more of a spiritual person.
I wouldn't be. I would include that in the. I'm someone who believes in God and who thinks spirituality is a crucially important part of who we are. I just find I'm not angry at people who are atheists. They're free to believe whatever they believe. I don't understand why. I sometimes find their hostility a little bit too much. They're a little bit. When I think about spirituality and religiosity, I choose to focus on all the beautiful things that come from it, and I think that they are blind to that. I think they need to be able to say, even though I can't buy this concept, I understand that there's an awful lot of what is precious and wonderful about humanity that comes from that, and if they want to deny it, they have to come up with some way of explaining. When in my last book, I had a whole thing about forgiveness, how crucial.
Which I think is overrated, man. I read that. I think forgiveness is overrated.
Oh, really? I
just do.
I think forgiveness is at the core of so many important things. But
I feel like you're embracing, like, you're the victim now. Like you are the victim. Like, you're not the one who actually did something. Like, if somebody does something to me.
Yeah.
Why do I have to forgive them? And they like to say, if you don't forgive, you'll be fucked up. It's like, no,
you forgive them for you, bro.
But I'm fine.
Yeah, but you're a sociopath. That's the difference. Not everybody's a sociopath.
Yeah.
A pastor named Carl Lynch said to me, because I was asking him about this, because people always make me seem like I'm crazy, and he said, forgiveness is you letting go of anything you would want to do to them. Meaning, if you got revenge on your heart, or you want to hurt them, or you want to see something bad happen to them, you're letting that go. You're letting go of, all right, I don't want to kill this person.
Oh, I think there's many different facets to it. I think our society could stand to be a lot more forgiving. When somebody screws up, that doesn't mean we ought to denounce them and banish them forever. I hate to come back to Allen Iverson, but Allen
Iverson really did something to you.
This did something. This thing. It was like I was so fucking angry after watching that.
Hey, you know how the hood feel. So here's
where forgiveness comes into this. He gets railroaded. He's put into prison on this totally absurd. He gets pardoned by Doug Wilder, thank God, and then nobody wants to take him no one wants to give him a shot at playing basketball in college, right? Why? Because they can't get it out of their head that he was in prison for X number of months.
Yeah.
Now, how do they get to a point where they say, you know what? That was something that happened in the past. We don't know what happened. He probably was victimized by a total. In order to get there, to put all that stuff behind, you have to be forgiving. You've got to say, look, I'm going to stop freaking out about about whatever happened in that bowling alley 2 years ago, and I have to accept the fact that today is a new day, and my relationship with you starts now. Right? That's forgiveness.
Okay. Is it forgiveness, or is it just I don't want revenge?
It's forgiveness. Forgiveness means taking a whole series of things that happened and saying they are now permanently off the table. We're starting from day one. People couldn't do that, right? And because they did that, they caused an immeasurable amount of pain to that young man and his entire community, right? That kind of incident, anyone who watches that movie, anyone who watches that movie, all kinds of stuff gets stirred up again. You're reminded about what a hateful, appalling place this country can be sometimes. And why is that? It's because they couldn't forgive.
I'm with you, but the thing is, it don't change anything. Like if you're like you say somebody like Crystals, right? And people who are just mad at how America has historically treated black people. So you just wake up and they say, you know what? I forgive white people for what they've done to us. But shit's still gonna happen. So what does that mean?
Well, it's going to happen whether you forgive or you don't forgive. This way, I think the argument is you'll at least live in peace a little bit better because you're not constantly
there
going,
are some things that
I'm going to give.
How can you live in peace if people are trying to take your head off, though?
But no,
It's got to be a two-way street, right?
It's more for like a past thing that happens.
Yeah. There are certain kinds of things that are just these self-perpetuating cycles of revenge and that you can only break. I mean, you go to Northern Ireland today, Catholics and Protestants who were blowing each other up a generation ago are now living side by side. Why? Because they chose to forgive. That's something that ended.
You know, there's another documentary they showed of Allen Iverson, and one thing that helped him forgive was he had sex with a lot of white women.
Hey, pink pussy is forgiveness, bro. Nothing to make you forgive more than pink pussy.
It's funny, when I watched, didn't get to that. But
hey, Malcolm Gladwell, we want to thank you for coming, man. Where can they reach you at? Not reach you. I don't want you responding to everybody's emails. I want to feel special.
My podcast is Revisionist History, and it's on the Panoply Network, but it's on iTunes. You can find it. And
you're done. You only put 10 episodes up there.
Next season, 10 more.
Oh, you do seasons?
We need to start doing seasons.
Nah.
I heard the last one and he was like, this is the final one and number 10. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, but he does a lot of research, I imagine, for his episodes. We just come here and talk
30
shit.
minutes.
All right.
I love the one you did about the kid who was going around. It was The Art of Listening.
Oh yeah.
And the kid who was going around taping. Or maybe that was a TED Talk.
That's not me.
Yeah, that was a TED Talk. My bad. I like the one you did, the satire paradox.
Oh yeah.
Because you kind of like that's what we're going through with Donald Trump right now.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Can I ask one question before you leave? I know you got to get out of here. I'm sorry. I just got all these fucking questions for you, man. This is really exciting. Is that okay?
Wait, last one.
Last one. All right, cool. We were having this discussion yesterday over what was worse, rape or murder, right?
Oh, wow.
And
Let's get into it.
oh, dude, this is light.
Rape
so,
is a big topic here.
Yeah.
Rape
We
and
talk a
race.
lot about rape. Yeah. So
I have so many things to say. We should have brought this up at the beginning. Okay, go on.
okay, we'll
about
do it
rape?
quickly.
Lots, yeah.
So I hit him up yesterday, and I was yesterday a couple days ago, and and I'm like, dude, I think rape is the worst, and we're including pedophilia in that, just a function of rape, right? And he's like, yeah, it is, and I'm like, because we can justify murder, right? Like, there are murderers that we know, Don King, who become like these kind of somewhat lovable parts of society. In some ways, we can justify, oh, maybe it was gang related, or maybe he killed a bad guy, or maybe he did this. I have a friend who may or may not have killed somebody. He's in jail right now, but I've kind of looked past that. We talk on the phone all the time. Like, this is, and I'm fascinated with my own self that I'm capable of doing this. I'm talking to him, joking around about shit.
Yeah.
Whereas we have rappers that talk about murdering people all the time. We know Gucci has killed somebody. Like, and we're okay with this. When there's an accusation of rape, immediately we shut down without even proof that that person actually did it.
Yeah.
We shut down. We're like, there's no way that I can maybe forgive it. Maybe it comes back to forgiveness or something like that. So I think that rape is worse than murder. So then why isn't it punished at a higher rate?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, what is your reaction?
What do you
to
think of
murder?
rape, Malcolm Gladwell?
Well, I put in my 10,000 hours, and I got to tell you.
Maybe I should skip this one. Well, there are two different kinds of words, right? So, murder is very, very. It's incredibly clear about what it means, and so there's no when I say of someone, he murdered someone. There's absolutely no ambiguity. We don't use the word murder if it was an accident.
Ooh.
Right? So we use it. It's about the deliberate taking of someone else's life. That's what murder is. Rape, on the other hand, is a word that we use, and there's a lot of ambiguity about what it means.
I might have grabbed your titty.
It doesn't. I mean, and that is there is a world of difference between, not a world of difference necessarily in how the victim feels, but a world of difference in the nature of the act between a violent assault by a guy grabs a woman off the street and rapes her in an alley, and and an encounter between two people who know each other, where one side says it was consensual and the other does not, and maybe they were both drunk. Right? Yeah. That second
You're a
one
brilliant
is
idiot, Malcolm. You're one of us.
that second one's
Isn't it
hard.
nice when he says that?
You're one of us.
And we need much better. We need a better vocabulary when it comes to sexual assault, because
We need to use the right words.
we need to use the right words to know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like there was that
Rape
Stanford
needs a
case.
manslaughter, in other words.
Yeah,
But they do, though. Criminal sexual conduct, sexual assault, there are variations.
I know, but in normal conversation, when the accusation is made in
It's
public,
You
just...
raped me.
yeah, and particularly if the charge turns out not to be true, or kind of true, or sort of, But again, when the word spans a psychopath grabs someone and not just sexually assaults them, but does serious physical harm in a way that is indistinguishable from the beginning of a murder, and something that happens in a dorm room at 3 a.m. when they have both been doing shots.
That's our number.
He's been listening.
So it's like, that's why, I get it. The whole thing is it's one of those things where we need to start over and enrich our kind of vocabulary and be much clearer about how we want to treat these various categories. And I don't know, it is impossible, you know this, it's impossible to have, in this country right now, a rational conversation about this because it's just so highly charged. Right?
Well, thank you, Malcolm. Give us our talking points about rape back. But really, just sincerely, thank you for coming. Thank you
it's
for
a pleasure.
The
this was
inspiration
great.
that you provided with your literature and your podcast. I can't wait to read your next book. I'm assuming it's going to be about communication. which I think will be very good for this generation because people don't know how to communicate face to face anymore, especially with the social media and stuff. So, thank you.
Good.
Thanks so much, man, for real.
As always, if you listen to this podcast, you think we're smart, you think we're intelligent, you think we're brilliant, you're absolutely right. If you listen to this podcast and you think we're just a couple idiots who don't know shit, you're right too. It's the Brilliant Idiots Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thanks again to Avion Tequila for sponsoring this week's episode of Brilliant Idiots. Avion is made by real people with true passion for their craft. It makes a delicious top-shelf margarita, too. Share Avion with those that appreciate what they eat and drink. I promise it will become theirs and your favorite ultra-premium tequila. Por favor, bebe Avion con responsabilidad.
That's right. Please drink it responsibly. Salute to Young Jeezy, a.k.a. Young Hazy. Young Hazy, who likes to drink Avion as well. Thank you.